Hi everybody, I'm Amanda Thiel and I'm trying something new today. I'm going to start a video blog of cooking. I love to cook. I cook all the time. I have a whole collection of family recipes that I have gathered from family and friends over the years, and I make them all the time. But whenever I cook, I don't always have the ingredients on hand, and I like to sort of tweak the recipes a little bit. I think it's something that I do well. Hopefully you agree with me. So today we're going to make my mom's refrigerator bran muffins. This is the recipe right here. As you can see, it's old, it's well loved, it's well used. And don't worry, I will put it all together, type it up nice for you at the end of this video. It's something I usually make, these refrigerator bran muffins. They last for 6 weeks in the refrigerator, the batter does, and then you can just pull it out as you need it. I usually make it at the beginning of the school year because I'm a teacher, and I like to be sort of organized at the beginning of the year, and I have like go-to breakfast ready to go to help ease us back into the school year. So I can make like a dozen on the weekend before school, and then they last us through the week, or I can just make 6 in the morning and we're good to go there. So I'm gonna make them today during our quarantine lockdown because a lot of the stuff that's in the recipe is something that we generally have in our pantries. So that's what I'm making for you today. It's my first vlog, so I've already messed up the recording. So I sort of started without you a little bit. So I will show you what I have going on over here. I have my grape nut cereal. Now the recipe calls for 2 cups of a bran cereal, okay? So you can choose anything you want. You can use like Fiber One, or you can use bran flakes or bran nuggets or whatever. I happen to like grape nuts just all by themselves, so I have grape nuts. So that's what I'm using today. You take 2 cups of grape nuts and you put them in a bowl, and then you just pour 2 cups of hot water over the top and let it sit. And what you can see is that this batch right here has already, it's absorbed the water and it's just sitting here. It's just a nice, mash, like a bran mash to put in there. And then I have a cup of raisins that I put into another bowl. I don't really want to tip this too much. I have a cup of raisins right here, and I just poured water, hot water over the top of it because we want those raisins to plump up. Okay, we want them to plump up because if you just stick them in your batter, what they're going to do is suck moisture out of your batter in the oven, and you have like a dry muffin. Nobody wants that. So this makes everything more juicy, more moist in your muffin, which I know moist is a word that some of us don't like, but it is a good thing in baking. All right, moving right along. So the first thing we got to do is we got to get our butter and sugar creaming together in a bowl. Now, it's not really butter. The recipe calls for a cup of shortening. So I don't really like to use a ton of shortening in my cooking. I would much rather use butter, or in this case, I'm using coconut oil. So, but you can't always substitute 1 for 1 with coconut oil. In my opinion, it's a little different. It's not as creamy. It's not as, it's a little more greasy and so forth. So I've decided to do a half and half of shortening and coconut oil today. We try it. Hopefully it works. So anyway, I have here a half a cup of coconut oil, all pre-measured out. So I'm just going to sort of scrape that. I tried to be organized and get this all set up ahead of time so I could be like professional and all, but I might have to run into a drawer or across the kitchen. Hopefully you'll you'll bear with me there. So I've got my coconut oil, scraping it into my bowl, and then I'm going to measure out my half a cup of shortening. Okay, shortening's a little easier to get out than coconut oil. The thing about coconut oil that I do like is that it is like room temperature stable, right? So it sits at room temperature and it's semi-solid, but it's kind of, but it melts really quickly. It's great for frying or cooking, and it gives a nice light flavor to your dishes. And you know, obviously you can't always use it because it does actually taste like coconut. So these muffins will have a slight coconut taste to them. If If you don't like coconut, I would not suggest using this. But in muffins, they're Raisin Bran muffins, so I think it's going to taste really good together. All right, so I've got my cup of fat, if that's how you want to think about it. You could use butter, you could use shortening, you could use coconut oil. If you got another semi-solid oil that you like to use, I do not recommend margarine. I haven't used margarine since like 1988. You know, it's not good for you. It's got all the cholesterol in it and none of the good fats. So, anywho's, I got that, and then I need my sugar. So I have my handy dandy container of sugar right here, and I'm going to put a cup of sugar in there. All right, so I've got a cup of, I have a cup of shortening fat, and I have 2.5 cups of sugar. It calls for 3, but again, I like to cut back on the sugar wherever I can, and you know, really it doesn't make that much difference in the recipe. Sometimes it does, but in my opinion, you can cut back where you can cut back. All right, so I'm gonna switch to the other camera now, pause, and I'm gonna put this on my stand mixer over here. Now we're gonna put our dry ingredients together. So the recipe calls for, it's a lot of flour, all right? And so it's 5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I am using unbleached flour just because, again, I like to make things a little simpler if I can. Any regular old AP flour will do. I think most people know this about baking, but I'll tell you anyway. You always want to level off your flour because, you know, too much flour. It seems like a little bit over the top wouldn't matter, but it really does. It adds up. So you just want to take the back of a knife or whatever and level off your flour. So it's going to take me a few minutes here, and you don't really want to pack it down. You know, on the big baking shows and everything, they weigh their flour sometimes, which I do have a kitchen scale, but I don't generally use it for that purpose, and I tend to get just fine results. So what do I know? All right, 3 cups of flour, almost there. And you know, you can always make a smaller batch of this. Oftentimes I'll make a half a batch because it makes a lot, okay? It makes a lot. I mean, we're gonna have 9 cups of flour in here by the time we're all done. So you can always cut this recipe down. I frequently will do that with this recipe and anybody else's recipe. Just, it's good for fractions. Good fraction practice with your kids. Okay, 5 cups of flour in there now. And then the second ingredient it calls for is bran flour, which you can buy in the store, and I have, but again, it's not something I use a whole lot, so I don't always have it in my pantry like now. So I usually just substitute whole wheat flour, which is what I have in my container over here. I'm going to switch my camera so you can see my workstation. Okay, so I have whole wheat flour, which I'm substituting for bran flour. I am the queen of substitutions, so I really hope that that's going to work out. All right, so I need 4 cups of that. So we want to mix all of our dry ingredients together and all of our wet ingredients together separately. So 1 bowl for wet, 1 bowl for dry, and then we alternate them together in this recipe because, again, it's a lot of batter, and then that way it just helps incorporate everything more smoothly, not so many lumps, and it helps the batter mix better. So there's a lot of flour, 9 cups of flour in there. All right, and then I need 5 teaspoons of baking soda, which is right here. And then fun fact, because my husband is always asking me about like cooking measurement ratios, 3 teaspoons equals a tablespoon. So you could just use a tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons. And I'll get to the quarts and cups here in a minute because that's another one he is always asking me about. All right, and so then I need a teaspoon of salt to go with that. So I got my teaspoon, and I'm gonna mix those together. My salt here. Now this is sea salt that I have ground up a little bit finer, and then I just like that flavor a little bit more. So let me grab a spatula. Probably should have done that before. Okay. So nice to have your kitchen all handy where everything's just like within arm's reach. Okay, so I'm just gonna gently fold that together so we can get all that baking soda mixed in. It's another reason you alternate your wet and your dry, because if you don't, you can get like I said, lumps, and in my house we call them baking soda bombs. When we don't get the baking soda thoroughly mixed in, you get this like clump of baking soda in your baked goods, and then somebody bites into it and it is gnarly. Nobody wants that. So make sure you give it a good thorough, and what I'm doing is I'm like twisting and folding from the bottom. So you take your spoon in and you dig down deep, and then you sort of lift it and fold it over the top like so. So that's all pretty well mixed right there. Hi, Jackson. All right, and so now we're going to turn to our liquid. So remember I said we're going to get all of our dry ingredients mixed together. That's them. And now we're going to get all of our wet ingredients mixed together. So here's a fun thing I've been playing with this week. I have started making yogurt in my Instant Pot. Wait for the recipe for that later, forthcoming. And I really like Greek yogurt. I like a thicker style yogurt. So basically the way to do that is you strain your yogurt through a cheesecloth, and it produces whey, like little Miss Muffet eating her curds in whey. And so you have all this whey left over, which is like full of probiotics and full of protein, and it's really good for you. And what are you going to do with it? I do not like to waste food at all. So I've been scouring the internet and learning how to use my whey. And so what I learned is it's basically like buttermilk, which is another ingredient that a lot of recipes call for. It makes your baked goods really fluffy and flaky and delicious. But I don't keep buttermilk at home. I mean, I'm not going to drink it, and when I'm working, I don't have time to bake all that often. So, I'm not just going to have it on hand. There are ways to make buttermilk, which I'm going to talk about right now. But so this recipe, and I'm going to mix regular old 1% milk and the whey, because you don't want to substitute all the whey for the buttermilk. It's not quite the same. So I'm doing half and half, which I made buttermilk biscuits last night and in this same way, and it worked out awesome. So I have 2 cups of whey measured out here, and I'm going to add 2 cups of 1% milk. It doesn't matter. I guess this is 2%. It doesn't matter. Whatever you like. Normally I use skim, but hey, we got what we got right now. Okay, so I mix that. So I have 4 cups, or 1 quart, or 1/4 of a gallon. I told you I was going to get back to measurements. So, I could do a whole vlog on measurements and their equivalencies. That would be a good idea. All right, and so what's going to happen is the sour milk, or the whey, is going to mix together with the milk and create basically buttermilk. We're going to help it along. This is another tip you can use for making buttermilk if you don't have any. You just need, hold on, you just need some kind of an acid to add to your milk. Lemon juice or vinegar are typically the ones that I'll have in a hand. So for every cup of milk, you add a that was a big splash, a tablespoon of vinegar to it. And that just, again, helps it curdle. And I'm just going to add a little less because I splashed a big bunch in there. We all make mistakes when we're cooking. We have splashes, we have explosions. I swear a lot sometimes when I'm cooking. It's okay. You just have to learn how to roll with the punches, how to fix your mistakes. It's okay. So I'm going to let that milk sit to the side right there and let it curdle a little. I know it's a really fun image. All right. And so check my recipe. So I poured my water over my cereal. I creamed together my shortening and my eggs. I have plumped my raisins. I've got my dry ingredients, I've got my wet ingredients, and so here's where we start putting it all together. All right, So, yeah, I told you, everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. And this is gonna get really full, and I'm probably gonna have to get out a second bowl, but we'll figure it out. All right, so, sorry it's gonna be a little loud. I'll turn on my mixer. I have my 4 eggs right here, and I'm just gonna crack the eggs into this. Some people crack their eggs, you know, into a container first, and that way you don't get your shells in there. If you were to break your egg, then you wouldn't have to go diving for shells. But, I mean, knock wood, I don't generally have that problem. So, I'm just a crack on the side kind of a gal. Alright, and turn that up and let it incorporate. And periodically you might want to just stop and scrape down the sides. Okay. Now I'm going to take my bran mash and mix it in there. So what I'm kind of trying to do is I'm trying to get this to be more fluid, I'm trying to add the wet first. Okay. And I don't have one of those cool stand mixers that, you know, where the top flips up. I really wish I did. But I don't, so I generally have to stop my mixer quite a lot to add ingredients, because I have sent stuff flying all over this kitchen. I will tell you that right here and right now. All right, and you can already see, if you can look real close there, you can see the top of my milk has already started to curdle a little bit, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to mix that in. All right. And that's nice and loose. My batter's nice and loose. So I'm going to add just like a cup of the buttermilk. Not an exact measurement, really, but. And then now it's real loose, as you can probably see. So I'm going to start adding some dry ingredients. We want to balance, right? See what I mean? Yeah, I have to kind of jimmy it in there. Which is why I use a measuring scoop. It makes it go smoother if I do that. Alright, maybe 1 more cup of that, which is about 1/3 of my dry ingredients, if you will recall. Okay. And I'm just sort of, you know, alternating as I go along here. Add, just waiting for it to get incorporated, and then I'll add the bran mash in. And I'll add like another cup or so of the buttermilk. Let that work its way in, get nice and loose. The other benefit is, you know, as I add this, it sort of scrapes down the sides the more you add. So it's getting pretty full. I might have to divide this batter here in a minute. I always forget just how much this makes. Okay, yeah. So this is a good opportunity for me to scrape down the sides of my bowl. It's too full. I will never get the rest of that flour in there, and it'll be a big mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, and I'm going to scrape down the sides of my bowl. I'm going to put like half of this mixture in an extra bowl I have. Best investment ever is buying a second bowl for my stand mixer. I definitely need it when I'm really into baking, like now. Okay, so I'm going to put about half of that in there, and we'll mix it all together by hand later. But this way, I can keep adding flour as we go. Scrape down the sides while I'm at it. not the best spatula I could have chosen today. All right, put my paddle back on there. Okay, and let's see, where's my towel? I always keep a kitchen towel handy for wiping my hands on. Probably should use an apron, but you know. All right, so get that going again. And I can add some more dry ingredient to that. Okay, so now that's about 2/3 of the dry ingredient and about 3/4 of the wet. So I should be good. I should be able to get like one more of each, and then we'll be all, and then we can mix the two batters together. Oops. All right, one more. Whoops, see, I just splashed them out the side. I'm getting impatient. And then I'll see if I can't pour the rest of the dry in there. All right, I did have another spatula somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, the last bit of the wet. We're almost there. We're almost there. But everything get all mixed in. Have a better spatula now. That looks just about right. It's a little loose, which is fine, because remember, we're gonna just incorporate it back into that other one, into the rest of the mixture, and then we're gonna drain our raisins. They're pretty plump, and mix them in too. I'm just scraping down my batter here off of my paddle mixer thingy. Now we're gonna just mix these guys here together. We'll put everything back where you can see it. All right, see, now I've gotten all, you know, catastrophic or chaotic here while I'm cooking, because that's how it goes. All right, so you can see there's a lot here, and I gotta get these two together because the two batters are different consistencies right now, and we can't have that. So that's another reason I generally make a smaller batch of this. I usually make a half one, because you know, this is a lot of batter, as you can see, but also it's just easier to work with. You just need one pot. But I wanted you to see the full thing, how much you can really make with this. I make really great gifts too, if you're going to like a potluck for work, or you got like muffins with mom, you can make these. All right, so again, I'm just going to use that folding technique that we talked about before. I'm going to dig my spatula down in deep and lift and fold and lift and fold. I'm only going to do it a handful of times because I got to fold those raisins in, and you don't want to overwork your batter ever, because that makes for tough batter. All right, so you can see my raisins are still kind of swimming over here, and we do not want to add that much moisture to the batter. So I'm just going to get my strainer out. I have a little sieve, a little strainer right here, and I'm going to go over to my sink and drain these raisins. Now, if you don't like raisins, I have a girlfriend who does not like raisins, then you can always put in any other dried fruit you might like. I've done craisins, cherries, dried blueberries. You can add nuts to this if you like. You know, toasted pecans would be good, or toasted walnuts are good. Just, you know if the people that you're serving or sharing this with have nut allergies. I'm gonna eat a raisin that fell on my counter. All right, so you can do more raisins. This doesn't really look like too much, honestly. But there we go. All right, I'm gonna take a little pause, and I'm gonna clear my space, and then I'm gonna set up my my muffin tins. And I forgot the crucial step at the beginning to set my my oven to temperature. How many times have you done that when you're baking? You get all done here and then your oven's cold. That's no good. So I'm going to set my oven to 400 degrees and I will be back. Okay, so we're back. I cleaned up my kitchen just a little bit, got rid of some stuff. I set the oven to 400 degrees. I put it on my bottom oven over there. And now I have my muffin tins. Now, I got out 2 sizes just because I wanted you to see that this recipe can obviously be adapted for mini muffins. If you have little kids, you have toddlers or something. I used to give my boys mini muffins all the time. You can control portions a little bit better that way. Or you can do them as full-size muffins. You can use cupcake liners. I have in the past, but I actually don't really like them for muffins. I think they tend to, this particular batter tends to stick to the cupcake liner and you lose half the muffin. So I don't like to do that. So I'm going to show you how to prepare your tray without liners, okay? So I have just my regular vegetable shortening here and a paper towel, and you just go through and you want to just put a little blob in each cup and swirl it around. Make sure you get down in the corners. You can see I'm kind of going back over them as they go along, and then you just keep going until you have them all done here. Get another blob. What I was going to say about that. So I'm just working my cupcake liners. This is why people use cupcake liners, because this is kind of a pain in the butt, but when you're like me and you have forgotten to start the oven, what else do you have to do? This is also a great job for kids. I used to have my boys do this all the time. They're helping you in the kitchen. They can easily grease the shortening pan. That's what my job was when I was a little kid, cooking in the kitchen with my mom. Actually, muffins were like the first thing that I learned how to bake when I was a little girl. My mom used to buy those Jiffy muffin mixes. If you're from Michigan, maybe you know what Jiffy is. And so, for dinner, it was my job to make the muffins or the cornbread or whatever. And it was so simple, just a package of Jiffy, like half a cup of oil and an egg or something. But I still remember, it was the first thing I learned how to bake. And then, so there we go. So I got all my muffin tins, even my minis, all greased up. You don't want to have big chunks of grease in there, obviously. So this is the tricky part. Well, not really the tricky part. This is the important part. It's not enough to just grease the pan. You also want to flour the pan. So I have my all-purpose flour here, and I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle a little flour randomly across the pan. And there we go. That's good. And you just kind of beat the pan a little bit and turn it and beat it and turn it and beat it and turn it and beat it until you have your flour sort of coating all the sides and all the bottoms. And then I like to pour the rest of it, when I'm greasing 2 pans or whatever, over the rest of it. So you can see it's all floured up there. This is a great way to tell if you've greased the pan accurately, appropriately. I shouldn't see any bare spots in there, and you can see I don't. It's all nice and floured. So that way I know I didn't miss anything with the shortening, which means that nothing's going to stick. Okay, so and again, if you've had your children helping you with greasing the pans, then you can check and see what a good job they did. And you can see I missed some spots. Can you see the shiny bits on there? You can see I missed some of the middles, which is no big deal. I'm just going to take my paper towel. I tend to save my paper towel. It's like one of those things, your grandma did when you were little. She saved everything. Well, so this is how we learn, right? We just do what our grandparents told us to do, or our parents. So I hit those ones that I missed, and then I'm just going to reflour them. And, basically, you're just shaking off, oops, any excess flour anyway. So I don't want excess flour hanging out in the bottom. So there we go. I got my 2 grease muffin tins, and now it's time to load this puppy up. This is like, I don't sell Pampered Chef or anything like that. I'm just saying it's a really handy tool that I bought a long time ago, and I still use it all the time. One of these little muffin scoopers. This is the medium. It's the only size I have. I really do wish I had more. I wish I had all the sizes for different things, but I don't. So I just take a scoop and sort of scrape it along the side of the pan, and I go through and add in a scoop to each cup. And you can see I'm not being very scientific here. I'm just sort of putting a scoop in and letting it fall. That one's a big scoop. And that's okay, because I'm going to go back through now that I've got them all with their first scoop, and I'm just gonna kind of fill them up. You kind of want them to be about halfway, and this is one of the reasons I really like this scoopy scooper thing here with the whatever. I'm sure there are off-brand ones, and I'm sure they work just as well. But because you know, it's usually for me, this is my recipe, so I get to make the rules. It's about 1.5 scoops per big muffin cup. Okay, so I can sort of use that scraper along the bottom to get about 1/2 scoop in there. And you know, I had the one that was a really big scoop, so obviously I'm not going to put as much. And you can see I'm just kind of evening it out as I go. Oops. Oh, see? And you can just take your spoon and sort of lift that out, because that was way too full. We do not want that. Alright, so that worked out. See, that one doesn't really even need any more. It was a really big scoop. Alright, so kind of flip those down, look them over one more time. I'm sorry, I'm touching my face quite a lot there. Got allergies. And that one looks a little lonely, so I'm going to add a little bit more to him. See what I mean? Stuff goes flying in my kitchen. We'll just edit that out later. All right, so got one. I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm going to do my mini muffins. Not going to use the big scoop with the mini muffins because, you know, I think it's just too much. So I've got just a regular tablespoon here. Now, I'm at home. It's my kitchen. I can do what I want. You can just scrape that in with your finger off your thing. So it's about 1 tablespoon. Okay, and again, these are not exact measurements. These are just about 1 tablespoon. Okay, there we go. So scrapey, scrapey. And I'm kind of eyeballing it as I go because I want to make sure that there's like some raisin in each muffin. So I'm kind of trying to check and see. If there are. My friend Patty taught me this great trick. Hi, Patty. That, you know, when she makes chocolate chip muffins or cookies or whatever, she'll take like a couple of extra of whatever the filling is, the raisins or the chocolate chips, and she'll dot them along the top because it just makes it for a nice presentation. So that's something you can totally feel free to do. Even though we've plumped these, like those are just on the top. I don't think 1 or 2 is going to make a big difference. So just something to think about. All right, so there, I've got my mini muffins filled, and my oven is so close. It's at 395. It's going to sing to us in a minute. I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to pop these guys in the oven. We're going to put these in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. That's for the full-size one. So I have a double oven over here, and you want to put them on a center rack, not too close to the bottom. And the mini muffins, obviously, they're smaller. They're going to take less time. So I would say about 15 minutes, but we'll check. Oh, there goes my oven. It's singing to me. So I'm going to go pop these in. I've got them on the center rack there. Well, maybe you can't see. And I'm going to set my timer. And away we go. While those are cooking in the oven, I'm going to put this batter in a Tupperware, and then you can see that I can just store it in my refrigerator. So let's sort of set that aside. All right, so I have, it's a lot of batter, you know, and I don't know exactly what size I'm gonna need here. So I think I'm gonna go for the bigger one right now, and then I could always, like, as I use it up, transition to the smaller size. And then, so, golly, wouldn't it be awesome if I could get a sponsorship deal? Like, I'm using all my Pampered Chef stuff over here. You know, like when I was first married, somebody gave me for a wedding present a whole pack of Pampered Chef stuff. It was awesome. It really was. And then I bought a lot of it over the years. But probably like the last 5 or 10 years, I really haven't bought any new. So what I've got is kind of running out, and they do have all kinds of cool stuff. So that's my little plug for Pampered Chef. Again, I do not sell it. I do not know anybody who sells it. You know, I'm just saying, sometimes those kitchen gadgets are worth it, and sometimes they are not. So yeah, that looks like a good amount there. And now when you put this in the refrigerator, I will say, like, the top of this is going to get, it'll get like a little dark brown on the top because it's just going to oxidize. There's your $10 word for today. It's just going to oxidize. But that's okay. It doesn't affect the flavor. It doesn't affect the baking. You can still use it, even if it changes color a little bit. I'm just going to scrape that down. Pop my Tupperware. This is Tupperware. This is not Pampered Chef. See, I got a whole eclectic mix here. Yeah. Okay. And put her in the oven or in the refrigerator. Okay, so we're back for the final test here. I took the mini muffins out at about 12 minutes out of the oven. So, and they look pretty done to me. I'll talk about that in just a second. And then I just pulled the big muffins out of the oven. So, you know, my husband's always asked me, how do you know if it's done? I don't know. You just look at it. Okay. So you want it to be kind of golden brown. I can see around the edges of the pan. The pan's not too hot over here anymore. I can see it kind of golden brown around the edges. All right, so now here's the moment of truth. We're gonna take our mini muffins and they've been cooling here for about 7 or 8 minutes, and we're gonna dump them out onto my handy dandy cooling rack right here. Hopefully, they're gonna pop right out and it'll be great. If they don't, we'll troubleshoot. Let's see. Oh, winner, chicken dinner. Yay. So you can see most of them came just sliding right out easy. That's because we greased and floured the pan. Oops, that's my timer. Hang on. Here's a good tip for you. The recipe will tell you, you know, oh, it's 12 minutes, it's 20 minutes, whatever. I advise you to always, like, make your own decisions. Look at your own oven. Every oven is a little bit different. And so, you know, your oven might take 18 minutes instead of 20, and it really does make a difference. So these 4 were a little stuck. So I just gave them a little gentle twist in the pan, and they're just popping right out. You don't want to be too forceful, or you rip the top of your muffin right off. If you didn't do a great job getting the bottom of the pan, they might stick right there at the bottom. So you might have to take a knife and pry up around the side. I'm not going to pull these ones out because they're still cooling right now, but I'm assuming they're going to pop right out too. And then this is my favorite part of the cooking show, so I finally get to do it, and we're going to do a little taste test of our mini muffin. So I'm going to just pull it apart. And you can see, look, there's plenty of raisins in there. It's nice and fluffy, the crumb, and so I'm pretty excited about it. I've already been taste testing the batter, so I know they're good. Big bite. My mom would be so proud. Yeah, they're really yummy and warm, and I can taste just a little tiny taste of coconut in there, and it didn't affect the texture at all. It's awesome. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. Have a great day.